Violence solves everything.
Hi guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Katarina complete guide. Now this must have come as a surprise to a lot of you who know that I'm an AD carry main. And basically, long story cut short, I'm gonna put it up on screen right now. I first timed Katarina in ranked and I won, and I got an S, but I'm not gonna spoil it. You guys can see later on, which is why I cut off like the KDA and all of that, because if you guys see the KDA, obviously you guys would know what happens in the match or what is going to happen in the match, and that would kind of spoil it a little bit. So I removed the KDA. You can only see that I played one match and got 100% win rate on Katarina in ranked. So now what am I trying to say here? Basically, I think Katarina is very strong. I'm going to be doing a tier list really soon, and it's no real spoiler because it's in the title of the video, but I think that Katarina is a S tier mid laner. So now, first up, I want to put a disclaimer at the very beginning of the video, which is to not first time champions in ranked. Now, I know I said I first time Katarina in ranked, but the reality is that I actually played her in ARAM over 20 matches at least. So I have gotten at least 4 pentakills in ARAM on Katarina and a lot more quadra-kills, etc, etc. So it's not that I completely cannot play her. I can play the champion somewhat. Now, I'm not very good at Katarina or anything. I'm just like alright. I know how she works. But I have never played Katarina's laning phase or anything like that. So it kind of was first timing Katarina in terms of like a matchup, but not in terms of the champion itself. So anyways, as with all complete guys, we're going to quickly jump into the practice tool and cover her skills and leveling order. Alright, so we're first going to start off with the leveling order as usual. Now at level 1, you will always take Q. At level 2, you'll take E. Level 3, you'll take W, although you can level W second as well in niche situations when you need your W. You max Q first, take Alt when available, of course. Then you will go for your Q max, then you max your E, of course taking Alt whenever available, and you max W last. I forgot to take Alt there. Alright, so we're going to quickly explain how Katarina works. Now really it isn't actually that hard. In terms of her abilities, it's really hard to play her, but in terms of understanding her abilities, it isn't really that hard. You gotta make things clear here. Alright, so thankfully Darius is kind of close enough for us to kill him to explain what she does. Alright, so now I'm first going to explain what her passive does. So for her Q and her W, she will have daggers on the floor. So here, if she Qs, she puts a dagger on the floor. Her passive is when you pick up that dagger, you will spin and do a AoE. Same goes for her W. It puts a dagger on the floor, and when you pick it up, it spins, and it hits everybody around the area, basically. Let me put some more enemy dummies to show you guys what I mean. So now, first up, I'm going to explain what her Q does. So her Q, you target an enemy, you hit the enemy, it bounces up to 3 targets. As you can see, it bounced to the 2 dummies in the center and the 1 on the right. So again, it bounces to the 3 on the right, and it sits down the dagger. Of course, if you pick up the dagger, the passive, it will spin, dealing damage to everybody around the area. Alright, now her W, she puts down a dagger and gains a bit of movement speed, so like that. You can use it to run away. You can use it, of course, just to simply put down a dagger. So for example, you're in the middle of the enemy team. What you can do is you can W, put the dagger straight on top of you, and pick it up to spin. Alright, so her E allows you to jump to an enemy. Or a dagger for that matter. So here I'm going to put down my Q. So here I can jump to this dagger. Picking up a dagger resets her E cooldown. So here I'm going to show you guys something you can do. So for example, you jump to an enemy like that. You can jump to enemy as well. So you can of course reset with your W, for example. So you can basically jump to enemies or daggers. Now mostly you want to jump to enemies that are near daggers so that your E can do damage to the enemy, and then you can pick up the dagger. Now you can actually pick the specific spot around the enemy you want to jump to. So for example, on this guy, I can choose to jump in front of him, or I can choose to jump behind him like that. So that's something to take note. Of course, in the heat of battle, might be a little bit difficult. So now Katarina's ult has this small range. So what happens is she applies grievous wounds to 3. She attacks and applies grievous wounds to 3 the 3 nearest enemies inside. So as you can see, I have the 4th guy in my range as well, like that. She can move a little bit, so at very low speed she can move like that.
Next time,
Of course, you can cancel early if you want to. Using an ability cancels your ultimate, something to take note of. And of course, it hits your 3 nearest enemies, so in this case, it's the 3 on the left. The right guy doesn't get hit. Something else to note is in your ultimate, you can still pick up daggers on the floor and spin it with your passive. So now, the last thing we gotta cover is what her passive, her second part of the passive does. So here we have the Darius. So here, if you kill him, it resets your cooldowns on your ability. So it reduces your cooldowns by, I believe it's 15 seconds. So it resets your Q, W, and E instantly, and your ult cooldown goes down by 15 seconds. In the late game, killing, I believe, 2 enemies resets your ult completely. So you can ult twice in, you know, maybe like a second or 2 if you kill people really quickly. So that is it for her skills and leveling order. We covered that pretty quickly, especially compared to other characters, because the skills and the skills and leveling order is not the complicated part. The complicated part about her is her combos. So we'll get into that later, of course. So now we're first gonna get into her build. And honestly, Katarina has a lot of ways she can be built. Now this build you see on screen now isn't actually the build that I'm using on her currently. So the build that you will be seeing in the gameplay is this. So this is the build that I'll be using for the gameplay later on, which is this. So the last item is kind of, you can pretty much build something there that you need. It's a little bit more situational. Alright, so first up, personally, I like taking the Hextech Gunblade. Katarina skills with both AD and AP, so the Gunblade stats will be really useful for her. Having the magical and physical Vam is really helpful for her, so that she can regain health as she is in the fight. Of course, really helpful. And of course, the slow is really useful if you want to engage on an enemy. Now, as a Katarina, you normally don't want to be the engaged, but if you're chasing down a squishy target like an enemy mid or enemy ADC, that could come in very handy. So I like going for the Gunblade. Secondly, I like going for the Infinity Orb, because the magic penetration and critting to targets with 35% of really helpful for Katarina, really helpful for, of course, getting her passive to reset. So really, Infinity Orb should always be an early pickup for Katarina. And of course, Death Cap, staple for every AP champion. Of course, getting a huge injection of AP as well as increasing your AP by 40%. Then normally you want to go for the Void Staff. Now, even if there isn't like a tank on the enemy team, anyways, you normally always want to go for the Void Staff anyways, because even squishy targets have magic penetration. Now this is percent magic penetration, not flat magic penetration, but it's still gonna help. You basically always want to go for the Void Staff. Now as your last item, you actually have a lot of options, and as a matter of fact, over these items, you have a couple options as well. So first up, of course, you can go for Morellonomicon. We know that her ult does give grievous wounds, but you won't always be using your ult. So sometimes if you want the grievous wounds, Morellonomicon can be the way to go, so all of your abilities have grievous wounds. Now something else you can go for is actually the Guardian Angel. Now of course she does skill with AD as well, so the AD stat isn't completely useless here. The revive could be a game changer in certain games, so you have to of course jump in, and you have to and you do take a death. And the Guardian Angel, of course, when you revive, you can pretty much wreak havoc again. Now something that I want to actually point out is that normally you will always go for Stasis Enchant. Pretty much nothing else even makes sense on Katarina, because you always jump into the fight. If you don't manage to reset, you don't manage to actually hit your resets and proc your passive, you want to Stasis to wait for your cooldown to come back up, so you have another chance to actually get your reset. So pretty much you'll always be going for Stasis. So another item you can actually go for, and a lot of Katarinas actually go for, is actually the Liandry's Torment. Now, if you want to go for Liandry's Torment, you should actually get this item, the Haunting Guise, as probably your first item. So, of course, you only complete the entire Liandry's Torment as your last item. So, aside from that, Katarina can also build the Crystalline Reflector for, of course, armor, and especially against heavy AD teams. And she can also build the Banshee's Veil against something like a heavy AP team. But Banshee's build, honestly, not too useful on Katarina, because she's going to be jumping in herself, and her Veil is going to get proc extremely easily. So Banshee's Veil not really the best pickup. Some people don't actually like going for Hextech Gunblade, so it could look something like this if you don't go for a Gunblade build. You go for example, the Haunting Guise as your first item. Then you go for like the Infinity Orb, then the Death Cap, then you go for the Void Staff, then you go for a fifth or fourth item, I mean, like let's say the Morellonomicon, and then after you get the Morellonomicon, then you finish off your Liandry's Torment, for example. And aside from these items, pretty much nothing else you can really build on Katarina. Of course, what kind of combination of items you go for is sort of your personal preference. Personally, I do like going for Gunblade majority of the time. Sometimes I don't, and sometimes I go straight into Infinity Orb. There even are times I go straight into Death Cap. So Katarina's build really kind of flexible, and you see a lot of different Katarinas going for a lot of different builds. Alright, so now I'm going to cover the runes and the spells. So first up, the runes. Now runes, honestly, you have two options. Now your first option is Electrocute. So why take Electrocute? Basically, Katarina, all you need is one reset to get another reset, to get another reset, to get another reset. Hopefully, of course, this is not the case. It's not you'll be getting pentakills non-stop. But basically, as a Katarina, you're always fishing for the reset. When you go in, you want to get a reset. So Electrocute is really useful for bursting down one single target, which will allow you to get that one first reset, which will, of course, help you get your next reset, etc. But personally, I like going for the second option, which is Conqueror. So Conqueror, of course, as we know, with 5 stacks, you will be able to stack it up. Now, with Katarina, normally when you go in, you will, of course, use your Q, your spin, your W spin, and your E. So that's already 4 stacks, and then you probably will out sooner or later. So you can stack up Conqueror relatively easily, and when you have it fully stacked and you start getting your resets, you will always have a fully stacked Conqueror as you continue on to trying to kill your next couple of champions. So personally, I think Conqueror has greater value than Electrocute, but I can perfectly understand Electrocute as well. I think they're both 100% viable options. I think it's just your personal preference and your personal playstyle, whether you go for the Conqueror or the Electrocute. The rest of the runes don't make sense. Now on the second one, the Domination rune, you always want to go for Triumph, because as you guys can see, champion takedowns restore 10% missing health, and you deal 3% more damage to enemies below 35% health. Now of course the 3% more damage of course synergizes with the Infinity Orb, so it helps you take them down easier, and when you kill them you get 10% missing health back. So sometimes this will save your life. When you're very low, you get a reset, get that extra health, you can move on to the next enemy. You're really low, you get a reset, and you get back the extra health yet again, and this can really pretty much it can win you that team fight, or it can win your team the game. Now on the Resolve rune, I actually don't like taking Katarina on Katarina. I actually think the best one to take on Katarina is Bone Plating. Now the reason for that is when you go in, your Bone Plating will definitely be proc. Somebody is going to be attacking you, and this is going to save you from a lot of damage. Now personally, I don't like the idea of 100 Titan, because Katarina shouldn't be CC'd anyway. Most of the time if you get CC'd, either you die or you won't actually be able to kill whoever your target is. So really, if you get CC'd, you're done for anyway. So don't ever go for 100 Titan or Merc Treads on Katarina, in my opinion. If you want to, you can also go for something like Adaptive Carapace, or Second Wind for a better lane matchup, because she is very, very weak in the laning matchup. Pretty much anybody beats her in the laning phase, except maybe like Kale or something. But in the later mid to late game, she basically wins her the team fights. So I like Bone Plating personally. Of course, we always take Sweet Tooth for the health sustain in lane. Now for the spells, obviously we always take Flash. Now actually I've seen some Katarinas not taking Flash, but because of how much mobility you get from your E and how you can actually reset your E to get a lot of mobility. But personally, of course, I'm not a Katarina main, I'm not that confident, but if you are learning Katarina, if you're a Katarina main, I can understand if you don't take Flash, but for me, I always take Flash. Then your second option, you either have Ignite, or you can go for Barrier. So some Katarinas just like going for a Barrier for like those bait plays, or like just so they have some form of a defensive tool aside from their Zhonya's. But I like going for Ignite, because Ignite helps me apply the Grievous Wounds if I don't have Morellos, or I'm not ulting, and also of course helps to finish off kills, and just extra form of damage, help me get my reset faster. So pretty much Ignite is always going to be a good choice. So with all that out of the way, we can actually move on to the gameplay. Alright, so here we have the gameplay. So as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And any questions you can put in the comments below, and I will of course address them. So really, this is going to be probably my fastest ever complete guide at about 24 minutes or so. But yeah, so first up, I gotta address the biggest question of not really why I picked Katarina, but kind of why I picked Katarina. So, or rather, the question I really want to address is the conditions to pick Katarina if you're not a Katarina one-trick. Of course, if you're a Katarina main or one-trick, you can pick Katarina in any conditions. But for the rest of us, for example, if you're a mid-lane player who just has Katarina in the champion pool, not necessarily a master at it, or, you know, someone like me, I got autofilled mid, and I really think Katarina is very, very strong, and I decide to pick it up. Or I play it, not really pick it up. But the main condition for Katarina is the amount of CC in the enemy team. So if you guys take a look at the enemy team, we have Blitzcrank. So Blitzcrank has a hook, unlikely to be hooking me because I am very mobile, but he has a point and click knockup. So if I get close to him, I can expect to get knocked up. Akshan doesn't have any CC. Caitlyn does have her traps, but she's not going to be able to trap me easily unless I walk into a trap or unless I get hit by some other form of CC and she chains it. So Caitlyn not really a threat. Evelyn does have her charm, but her charm takes time to arm, and normally unlikely she'll put it on me. So Evelyn not really too much of a threat like Caitlyn. Now Gragas has his body slam and his cask. Of course, Gragas' body slam very easy to hit on me, so that is a big threat. And Gragas' cask as well, of course, can mess me up real good. He can bomb me straight out of the team fight, or he can bomb me into their team, so that is a problem. So basically, the three things I have to take note of is Blitzcrank's knockup, Gragas' body slam, and Gragas' cask. So not too much CC on the enemy team, which is why I picked Katarina. Now, obviously, the best case scenario is like no viable CC on the enemy team. So if they still had Evelyn and Caitlyn, but their Blitzcrank was, you know, someone without CC, and the Gragas was someone without CC as well, obviously that would be a golden kind of scenario, but obviously that's unrealistic. So this is more or less kind of like the minimum amount of CC you would expect from an enemy team already. But yeah, so as I've been covering the reason why I picked Katarina, also we have to cover her laning phase. So in this match, I'm up against an Akshan. Now, obviously, you guys know I play Akshan. I've made a complete guide on him and a couple of videos on Akshan myself. Akshan in the mid lane, I have played him in the mid lane as well, aside from ADC. Akshan in the mid lane has a pretty strong early game. If he gets off a good swing, where like he swings around one of the mid lane walls and gets his entire heroic swing onto you, he can do more than half of your health even before level 5. So obviously, as I said, Katarina has a very, very weak laning phase, so I don't want to be tussling with him in the early game. What I kind of want to do is try to avoid as much poke as I can. Here, I just try to disrupt the Evelyn a little bit, but I know Akshan is coming back, so I'm not committing to it. So as I said, Akshan's back in the lane as I expected. But yeah, so I don't want to commit to fighting Akshan because I pretty much lose that fight 100% of the time. But what I want to try to do is not take his poke like this. As you guys can see, he hit both parts of his boomerang on me, so I don't want to be doing that. I want to be as far as possible avoiding his boomerang as much as I can. Obviously, I don't engage him, so I don't get hit with the heroic swing, and I let him push in like this and try to clear the minions as far as I can. Now, Katarina has a shove and roam kind of playstyle as well, but it's really difficult in this particular matchup because I cannot just blindly shove against an Akshan, because what will happen if I do that is, you know, he will kill me. So here Akshan decided to roam. I'm leaving my wave. I'm going down to roam as well. Now, my team is caught in a 4v2, I believe, at the moment, but I'm here for cleanup duty. So here I go in with my ultimate. I managed to get a kill onto the Blitzcrank, a kill onto the Akshan, and I try to escape, but unfortunately I do die to, I believe it was the Caitlyn. So honestly, not too bad there. Starting to get the snowball going with my first 2 kills. Akshan revive procs, which is a little bit unfortunate. But as a Katarina player, this is what you want to do. If you see your lane opponent leaving the lane, you always want to leave with them. Either follow them where they're going, or you can go to the opposite lane to try to get kills there. But Katarina's best friend is going to bot lane, as much as I hate to say it, because obviously I play bot lane and Katarina always comes for bot lane. But bot lane is very good because you have a potential of 2 kills. But if you gank top, you probably only kill 1 person and at most the jungler. But if you go bot lane, you might get 2 kills and you might get an additional kill from the jungle, and you might even get another additional kill, you know, from the enemy mid laner. So yeah, so here the first dragon is spawned. Obviously, the enemy team is trying to pick up the first dragon, and my team is going in. So here, as you can see, I'm hanging back. I engage on the Blitzcrank because he doesn't have his spells. I get bombed away by the Gragas, so we know Gragas doesn't have his cast. We just saw him use his E. He doesn't have his E as well. So here, very safe for me to go in because there's no CC to disrupt me. Here, I clean up the Gragas. Now I'm changing targets onto the Caitlyn. I'm running out of health, so I have to back off a little bit. Here I flash over to pick up the kill on the Caitlyn because I want that shutdown. Now, of course, that's a little bit greedy, but I don't think the Nami and Nunu was waiting for me to pick up that kill, so I had to flash over to secure the shutdown. Because obviously the shutdown goal on a Katarina is way more useful than on a Nami or a Caitlyn. So here, we try to actually kill the Evelynn, and Nami actually manages to bounce off her ebb and flow off me onto the Evelynn for the kill. So overall, I'm 5-1-1 now, really positive trade. Akshan, instead of going for me who's low, decides to try to go onto the Caitlyn. Not Caitlyn, go onto the Nami instead, and we managed to pick him up as well. So wave is into my tower. I'm going to quickly clear the wave, pick up the fruit, and I'm going to shove out the next wave. Since Akshan just died, he shouldn't be here. So, and I'm also pretty healthy after taking the fruit. So here I'm just going to shove out the second wave, and then I'm going to backport and of course pick up some items if possible. Now, as you guys have noticed, I have already picked up my Hextech Gunblade. I can see Blitzcrank over there in the bush, so I want to back over at a safe spot so I don't actually get caught out by the Blitzcrank. And so 5-1-2, really good scoreline, really good KDA so far. Now on Katarina, you shouldn't really be afraid to die. It's more so how many kills can you get before you die. Now of course, best case scenario is you wipe the enemy team without dying at all. But honestly, if you kill like 3 or 4 people, or if you kill 3 people, get like the 4th person low and you die, I honestly think it's worth it because your team should be able to, you know, clean up the rest of the fight. Or at least it would be more or less a worth it trade, unless you're the only carry of your team and the whole rest of your team is feeding. If not, in general, if you die for like a multi-kill, it's generally worth it. So now here Nunu is trying to go for a gank, and I'm of course with him. Jax is here as well, but the enemy team managed to suss it out, and they pretty much just back off before we can really even do anything. So we have already picked up the dragon. Rift Herald is up, so obviously the next logical move is of course to go for the Rift Herald. We spell out an enemy ward and we're going to take it out. So here we're just going for the Rift Herald. Here I see that Yakshan and the Gragas might be trying to go on Jack. So here I'm just hovering. So if they engage, I can of course go in and help him out. Here, Nunu is going to secure the Rift Herald. Gragas ulti is out, so is Gragas' body slam, but we don't really have the chase potential, so I'm just going to back off, hit back over to mid and clear out my mid wave. We are relatively close to Oblivion Orb as we have both of the components already, so we are all golden.
I can't wait.
Here, nothing much to do on the map. Everybody in my team is kind of having a reset. So here I'm gonna reset as well, and actually I'm just gonna pick up my Oblivion Orb itself. Oblivion Orb, of course, as we have covered, is a beautiful item from Katarina, synergizing with her Triumph and basically her entire playstyle of course taking out targets and getting reset. So here I see Akshan, and I'm pretty fed at this point in time, at least compared to him. So here I can kind of fight him already. He's 1-2-1, whereas I'm, you know, 5-1-2, and I have 2 completed items, whereas he has 1. So here I engage on him, but the entire enemy team shows up, so I quickly just flash my way out of there, because obviously I don't want to tussle with 3 people by myself when we have all of Gragas' CC up. And you know, so obviously that's not a good idea. Here the team fight breaks out. Kill you what Katarina wants. Gragas' body slam is gone. I finish off the Evelynn, and we finish off the rest of the team as well. So here, as you guys can see, boom, 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 getting all the resets. We get a quadra kill. Unfortunately, we didn't get the kill on, I believe it was the Gragas, so no penta for us. And at this point in time, the enemy team surrenders because we have a super duper fat Katarina. And honestly, I think the enemy team might have thought I was a Katarina one trick or a Katarina main, when actually it's my first time playing Katarina in ranked. So anyways guys, I'll leave you guys with the stats as usual. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.